For more than 600 years, no one has been able to fully read this book. Its pages are filled with strange symbols, unfamiliar plants, unusual diagrams, and writing unlike anything found in ordinary medieval manuscripts. Historians have studied it for generations. Cryptographers have tried to decode it. Linguists have searched for hidden meaning inside its strange symbols. Even modern computers have struggled to explain what it contains. Yet, despite centuries of effort, no one has ever produced a translation accepted by experts. No one knows exactly who wrote it. No one knows why it was created. And perhaps most unsettling of all, no one knows what it actually says. Known today as the Voynich Manuscript, this strange book remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Unlike many historical puzzles that survive only through stories or incomplete records, this one still exists. The pages remain preserved. Researchers can examine the writing, the illustrations can still be studied in extraordinary detail, and yet, the mystery remains. Today, the manuscript sits inside Yale University's Banneker Rare Book Library, carefully protected behind glass. Visitors can see it. Scholars continue studying it. The strange symbols remain visible to anyone willing to look, but understanding them has proven far more difficult. At first glance, the manuscript does not seem especially unusual. It looks old, carefully preserved. Its pages are made from vellum, a material commonly used during the medieval period. The writing stretches neatly across the parchment, arranged in organized sections as though following clear grammatical rules. The illustrations appear detailed and deliberate. For a moment, it almost feels like an ordinary medieval book. But the longer researchers looked, the stranger it became. The writing does not resemble Latin, the language used across much of medieval Europe. It does not resemble Greek, or Arabic, or Hebrew. Nothing about the symbols feels familiar. Some characters repeat often, others appear only rarely. Entire sections seem carefully organized, almost as though the writing follows rules that modern scholars simply do not understand. That detail immediately caught attention, because if the manuscript were meaningless nonsense, researchers would expect something very different: random symbols, chaotic repetition, patterns that quickly collapse under careful study. But that is not what happened. Instead, the manuscript behaves strangely like real language. Certain words repeated at believable intervals. Some symbols regularly appeared beside others. Entire sections seemed structured, consistent, and intentional. And yet, no one could confidently read even a single sentence. That contradiction became one of the manuscript's greatest mysteries. If this really represented language, why had no one been able to understand it? To answer that question, historians first tried to understand where the manuscript had come from. The modern story begins in 1912. A rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased a collection of old manuscripts from a Jesuit college near Rome. Among the collection sat something unusual. At first, it may not have looked extraordinary, just another old book, another forgotten manuscript from centuries past. But once Voynich opened the pages, something immediately felt different. Strange illustrations stretched across nearly every section. Unknown symbols filled the parchment. Circular diagrams appeared where ordinary text might normally exist. And scattered throughout the manuscript were plants unlike anything anyone could confidently recognize. Nothing resembled an ordinary medieval book. Voynich immediately understood he had found something unusual. What he likely did not realize was that the strange manuscript would continue confusing historians more than 100 years later. As researchers began studying the book, one detail stood out almost immediately: the plants. Entire sections of the manuscript appear devoted to botanical illustrations. At first glance, some look almost familiar. A leaf resembles one known species. A flower looks vaguely recognizable. Certain roots seem strangely familiar, but only partially, because whenever historians tried identifying the plants completely, problems quickly emerged. No exact matches could be found. Some illustrations appeared impossible, as though different species had been combined into entirely new creations. One part of a plant might resemble something real, while another looked completely unfamiliar. At first, researchers considered a simple explanation. Perhaps the artist lacked skill. Medieval illustrations were not always scientifically accurate. Artists often copied older images rather than studying real plants directly. Mistakes were common, but there was a problem. The drawings looked too careful, too deliberate. The details appeared intentional, as though the person creating them wanted specific features to stand out. And that raised another possibility. What if the plants were never meant to be recognized? Some historians began wondering whether the manuscript might contain hidden medical knowledge. During the medieval period, herbal medicine carried enormous importance. Monks, physicians, and scholars often protected valuable treatments carefully. Knowledge was sometimes shared privately, especially if someone believed it carried importance or power. Could the manuscript have been designed to conceal information? At first, the theory sounded reasonable. If someone wanted to preserve medical remedies or scientific observations while preventing outsiders from understanding them, disguising both the text and illustrations might have made sense. But uncertainty quickly returned, because if the manuscript truly contained useful knowledge, why design something so complicated that even centuries later, no one could understand it? And the strange plants were only the beginning. As researchers turned deeper into the manuscript, the pages became even stranger. Several sections appeared almost astronomical. Circular diagrams stretched across entire pages. Stars, moon-like symbols, sun shapes, patterns resembling zodiac signs. To historians, parts of these pages felt strangely familiar. During the medieval period, astrology played a far greater role in everyday life than many people realize today. Physicians sometimes believed planetary movements influenced human health. Treatments were occasionally chosen according to zodiac signs or lunar cycles. This may explain why recognizable zodiac imagery appears inside parts of the manuscript. But once again, the mystery deepened. Because while researchers could identify parts of the imagery, the writing surrounding it remained impossible to understand. The illustrations offered clues, the text offered none. And then historians encountered perhaps the strangest section in the entire manuscript. Scattered across several pages appeared groups of women, or at least figures believed to represent women. Many were unclothed. Some stood inside pools filled with green liquid. Others appeared connected through unusual systems of tubes, containers, and strange flowing shapes that modern viewers still struggle to explain. To many researchers, the pages felt deeply unusual almost immediately. Not frightening, not violent, just strange. Some historians believed the images may represent anatomy. Others suggested fertility, bathing rituals, women's health, medical systems that no longer survive. But no explanation fully accounted for everything visible on the page. The imagery seemed symbolic, carefully arranged, almost as though it followed rules modern researchers still do not fully understand. By this point, historians faced an uncomfortable reality. The manuscript seemed too organized to dismiss, too detailed to ignore, too consistent to be random, and yet no one could explain what it actually meant. That is when researchers began considering another possibility. Perhaps the meaning had been intentionally hidden. Perhaps the manuscript had been written in code. The idea that the Voynich Manuscript may have been written in code immediately attracted serious attention. After all, secret writing was nothing unusual during the medieval world. Kings used coded messages to protect military plans. Religious groups sometimes concealed sensitive ideas from outsiders. Scholars occasionally hid valuable knowledge from rivals. If the manuscript contained something important, encryption seemed like a reasonable explanation. And at first, several details appeared to support the theory. The writing looked structured, certain symbols repeated at predictable intervals. Some words appeared again and again, almost as though following grammatical rules. To researchers, the text behaved strangely like genuine communication. But there was a problem. No one could break the code. Traditional ciphers usually reveal patterns over time. Repeated symbols expose weaknesses. Hidden systems eventually begin to make sense. But the Voynich Manuscript refused to cooperate. Year after year, experts attempted to decode the writing. Again and again. They failed. And among the people trying to solve the mystery were some unusually qualified experts. During the 20th century, professional cryptographers began studying the manuscript in detail. Some had successfully broken enemy military codes during wartime. Others spent careers decoding hidden systems of communication. If anyone could understand the manuscript, many believed it would be them. Yet the mystery remained. No convincing translation emerged, no hidden message revealed itself, and no explanation fully accounted for the strange symbols spread across its pages. Instead, the mystery only deepened. As frustration grew, researchers began considering another possibility. Perhaps the manuscript represented a forgotten language. History contains many examples of languages disappearing completely. Entire civilizations have vanished. Writing systems have been abandoned. Cultural knowledge has sometimes disappeared through migration, war, or collapse. Could the Voynich Manuscript preserve the final surviving example of something completely lost? At first, the idea fascinated historians, but uncertainty quickly returned. Even forgotten languages usually leave clues behind: shared symbols, familiar sentence structures, connections to neighboring cultures, or older writing systems. Researchers searched for similarities. Nothing fully matched. The writing continued resisting comparison. And, eventually, another theory began attracting serious attention. Perhaps the manuscript never meant anything at all. Perhaps the entire book had been created as a hoax. At first glance, the explanation sounded surprisingly reasonable. The medieval world contained no shortage of mysterious relics, fabricated stories, and elaborate deceptions. Rare books carried enormous value, especially if they appeared ancient or filled with hidden knowledge. Maybe someone had deliberately invented meaningless symbols, added strange illustrations, and created the illusion of mystery. But, once again, there was a problem. Modern science eventually examined the manuscript itself. Researchers carefully tested the parchment, hoping science might finally reveal when or where the mystery had begun. Small samples were examined in laboratories, where specialists searched for clues hidden inside the material itself. The results were important. Carbon dating suggested the vellum likely originated sometime between 1404 and 1438. That discovery changed the conversation. The manuscript was genuinely old. It was not a recent forgery, not a modern invention. Whatever the Voynich manuscript was, it had truly existed for centuries. Researchers also studied the ink and pigments used throughout the manuscript. While not every question could be answered, nothing clearly suggested fraud. The materials appeared consistent with what historians would expect from the period, and suddenly, the hoax theory became far more complicated. Because if someone had created the manuscript simply to deceive others, why spend so much effort? The book contains hundreds of pages. The symbols remain remarkably consistent. The illustrations follow recognizable themes. The strange organization repeats again and again, as though someone carefully planned every section. Nothing feels careless. Nothing feels random. Someone clearly intended the manuscript to mean something. The problem is, that meaning never survived. And perhaps nowhere does the mystery feel stranger than when researchers examine the writing using modern technology. As computers became more advanced, experts hoped science might finally succeed where generations of historians had failed. Programs analyzed repeating symbols. Patterns inside the writing were measured. Word frequency was compared to known languages. At first, the results seemed promising. The manuscript behaved surprisingly like real language. Certain words appeared more often than others, much like ordinary communication. Some symbols regularly appeared near the beginnings of lines, while others appeared more commonly toward the end. The structure seemed intentional, organized, consistent. For many researchers, this became one of the strongest arguments against the idea of meaningless nonsense. Creating fake writing that naturally behaved like language across hundreds of pages would have required extraordinary planning, especially 600 years ago. And yet, even modern computers failed to solve it. Artificial intelligence has examined the patterns. Researchers have compared the symbols against dozens of historical languages. Experts have proposed possible translations. Still, no answer has convinced historians, and as the mystery continued, stranger explanations inevitably followed. Some people believed the manuscript contained forgotten scientific knowledge. Others suggested hidden medicine. A few proposed secret societies protecting dangerous ideas from outsiders. Over time, even stranger theories emerged. Paranormal explanations, unknown civilizations, forbidden knowledge. But historians generally remain cautious. Most researchers believe the explanation, if it is ever discovered, will likely be far simpler than popular imagination suggests. Perhaps the manuscript records medical treatments no longer understood. Perhaps it preserves an obscure regional language that disappeared centuries ago. Perhaps it was written for a small group of people who already understood its meaning. Or perhaps the answer is something historians have not yet considered. And maybe that uncertainty explains why the Voynich Manuscript continues to fascinate people more than 600 years later. Because unlike many historical mysteries, this one remains unfinished. The book still exists. Its pages remain preserved. The strange symbols remain visible. And anyone willing to study them faces the same frustrating question researchers have struggled with for generations. What does it actually say? Because the story of the Voynich Manuscript is ultimately not just a mystery about an unreadable book. It is a story about the limits of human understanding, about how knowledge can survive while meaning disappears, and about how even in an age of advanced science, powerful computers, and artificial intelligence, some questions remain stubbornly unanswered. Somewhere inside those strange pages, covered in symbols no one understands, a message may still survive. Written by hands that disappeared centuries ago, waiting for someone who may never come. And even now, more than 600 years later, historians still cannot say with complete certainty what the Voynich Manuscript was truly meant to reveal. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more real historical mysteries, forgotten civilizations, and unexplained discoveries, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.